You want to get controversial? You want to get views?
Just cut that in whenever.
Yeah.
Is it video?
Yeah, it's video.
Are we all on frame?
What?
Are we all on?
Yeah, it's perfect right now, actually.
Hold on. Are we thinking of some questions first?
I guess just start with the what would you change in drifting?
What was your password?
7231.
What was that?
Nothing. Oh, it's the bag.
Okay, so this is Logan, this is Dustin. They are my, I guess right now they're my right and left hand men.
Crewman.
Yeah, so Logan, tell everybody who you are, what you do at events for the team, and what you drive.
I'm Logan. I just wrench on the car, ship brakes, so just fix it with Dustin, and I drive a Mustang that's gonna have an LS in it.
Dude, so you bought a 6.0 today.
Yes.
So how did you come to that decision?
Very spur of the moment.
After lunch.
I'm pretty sure that was like a 5-minute conversation where you went from having a 4.6 to a 6.0. And I think it's the best decision you've ever made.
Yeah, I mean, it was 5 hours to get it. But
Yeah, me and Dustin put the motor in today, and Logan's like, oh, gotta go pick up a motor.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone pace the shop trying to make a decision.
Yeah, but you made one, and I think you made the right one. We're all gonna have LSs, and that's exciting.
It'd
Speaking
be easy.
All right, Dustin, what about you?
I make sure the car runs well and make sure that it goes faster than everyone else. I have an S13, also with an LS in it. It's bright yellow and it never breaks. I don't know.
Yeah, Dustin's got some fancy stuff on his S13, but we can talk about that later. Yeah, so Logan didn't give himself enough credit. Logan does a lot at events. He's kind of like my hype man on Grid 2. I don't even think he knows he does that. But whenever I'm about to go out for a battle, every time he'll come up to my window and he'll say some crazy shit and get me all excited. And yeah, Dustin fixes the stuff I break. Logan hypes me up and helps Dustin fix the stuff I break. Last year, Logan did everything. It was me and Logan every single event. We were fixing the car, putting tires in the car, fueling the car, everything. But now we got Dustin, good addition to the team. He's the man. He makes car go fast.
I don't like leaks either. Leaks are crap.
Yeah.
LSs don't just leak oil.
Yeah.
That's a myth.
Yeah. I learned a lot of little things about why LSs leak oil and why they shouldn't leak oil.
A lot of little things.
Yeah, a lot of little shit. But yeah, so we got my motor back in and running. It was a couple days work, but so on Instagram I asked you guys to ask some questions, and we got a few good ones. So we got Chase behind the camera over here. He's going to ask us some questions, and we're all going to give our answers from our own perspectives. I'm like a competition driver. Logan's grassroots guy, Dustin's grassroots guy, and they both have their own perspectives in drifting.
We all watch FD.
So I think it'll be kind of interesting to see kind of like what everybody thinks about this stuff. All right, Chase, what's our first question?
The first one is, why did you stay hydraulic power steering instead of going electric?
Honestly, so why my car is still hydraulic power steering is whenever I started building this car, I didn't even know how like a relay worked. I didn't know what a good ground looked like. So in my opinion, from where I was standing, if I had to wire something and I could avoid wiring it, that's what I did. So it stayed hydraulic power steering. I really haven't had any problems with it. In the beginning of the car's life, we had some power steering lines flipped, and that took out a couple racks. But once I figured that out and got the restrictor on the pump right, it really hasn't had a problem. We lost one pump that's been there for a year because the belt lost. Like went out and broke a rib off at LS
The
Fest.
belt killed your pump.
Yeah, and it like punched a hole in the reservoir. But other than that, like the hydraulic's been good, so I haven't really felt the need to change it. I think Dustin would have a pretty interesting answer.
Well, I'm not against hydraulic. I did put an electric column in my car, mostly because I hate power steering fluid next to gear oil. I'm sure everyone can agree.
Yeah, gear oil is my least favorite fluid in the
I didn't want to run an extra cooler on the car. I didn't want that whole system. I got rid of that whole system. I was like, you know what? I'll put it next to the battery. Well, I can turn it up or down. Like I can turn it up for, lots of angle. Like if I'm throwing backies, I can turn the assist all the way up and it's no problem. And then when I want to go street drive the car, I can turn it down.
I drove his car like for a lap, and it literally felt like a simulator. Like
Yeah.
you literally have a force feedback knob. It's hilarious.
Yeah, turn it over down.
I hear a lot of people say that electric columns don't work for drifting, but your car seems to work.
When the car had too much caster in it and you put it under like a lot, you ask a lot of load out of it. It did put me in a 50% kind of like half steering because it got hot. But after I made some changes, dude, it's been. I could turn the column on and steer the car with my finger without even turning the engine on.
Did you have to run like a crazy alternator to power that?
No, it's a 100 amp stock GTO or Camaro alternator, big battery. But
Interesting.
no, it's ran straight to the battery, and never had a problem out of it. Been
Logan?
easy.
What do you think about hydraulic versus electric power steering?
I don't really care. To be
He's like,
honest.
it works.
If it works, ship it.
Dude, the RTR guys have 2 electric pumps in their cars now.
Well, that's.
They have 2 big ones, like right where the radiator should be, and it's
I think that's after the James Dean.
yeah.
test
Dean made
video.
them switch. But like, why do you need 2?
I
I think that's hilarious.
Maybe one wasn't enough.
Yeah.
They do run they do have like the biggest tires on the
I don't know,
planet.
if you drive like Chelsea as an alpha, you probably do need some wacky things, to be honest. Anyways,
Nick.
what's next?
What are some of the things you would want to upgrade when building an LS3 for drifting?
Well, I guess it depends on what you want to do. Like, if you want to go real fast, probably lifters, probably oil pump, valve train. I know valve trains are pretty bad, tuning upgrades and stuff, but I mean, they're really good out of the box. But if you want to make, like my cars, everything's changed. But if you're just trying to have like a reliable setup, really not much.
You don't even need an LS3.
No, you
I
can
mean,
get like an Iron Block 6.0 or something.
We just did LS Fest with Grant, and that poor guy's got a stock 5.7 liter with a cam,
And
stock
nitrous.
intake.
He's got like a 50 shot. It's barely even nitrous.
He makes over 400 wheel.
Yeah, I mean, an LS3 is kind of overkill. If you're going for like a max
Unless you're
effort NA
competing, I
build,
guess.
yeah, like if you just want the most NA power you can, I guess that helps. I don't know. I would just probably get a cheaper LS and just do more to it than I probably would get an LS3 as a
Yeah.
base.
I mean, my 6.0 makes over 400 and probably 30 crank
Yeah,
horsepower.
and I mean, unless you're trying to do
It's
more
stock.
than Pro-Am, like you
Yeah.
really don't need
yeah,
more than
so
that.
stock head, stock bottom end, everything.
Why did you pick a 6.0?
Cost effective. There's no reason to go spend
It was
a bunch
big
of money for grassroots if I don't have any aspirations to do pro spec or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just trying to have a reliable car that makes good power, I think Iron Block all day is the way to go. Like, there's no reason to do any more than that.
I didn't care about the extra 100 pounds. Who cared? I mean,
I think that's a myth too, though. Like, I think a lot of people think if you go Iron Block instead of aluminum block, like you're gonna have like 70% front weight distribution. They're really not that big of a difference. A little
your
bit.
car probably because where the motor's at, but like my car's only 55 front.
Yeah, but you're like an exception to the rule because you push your motor back like a foot and a half, dude. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's still iron.
But like, I don't know.
My car still weighs 2,700 pounds with an iron block in it.
Yeah, if you have an S13, it can still weigh under 3,000 pounds comfortably with an iron block. I don't think there's any need to get an aluminum block. But if you want an LS3 and you want to go drifting reliably forever,
It's a good motor.
Get a good heads, good valve train, nice cam, nice lifters, and you're pretty much good to go, I think.
Nice.
What's next?
What would you guys change about drifting today?
Oh Lord.
Okay, so I guess I'll kind of
Can we talk
answer
about
this.
the pretty car drifting shit? Because that sucks.
Okay, so I'm like competition guy, so I'll answer this from like that perspective, and you guys can answer it from like what you do
Yeah,
perspective.
shoot.
You know what I mean?
Oh Lord.
Shoot.
So I think a big problem we have right now for the competition side of drifting, so you have Pro-Am, which leads into FD, right? So I feel like if you can get through Pro-Am, you need to be competitive. You need to be able to be competitive in FD. So right now, I think there's a lot of ways to get licenses that allow people who aren't good enough to be in Pro Spec to get into Pro Spec. And if you watch a Pro Spec stream, that's pretty obvious. So I think the number one thing that could be changed is FD needs to be, so if you are eligible to get a license, like say you win a Pro-Am series, FD still should have to review you to make sure you're good enough to be there. Because, I don't know, drifting's in a point right now where, like, for example, if you can get like a Formula 3 license or something, If you're a bad driver and you somehow luck your way into a big Formula series, you kind of go under the radar because there's so many of them, and the series, like the sport is so established that like a few, like the bottom 10 drivers being bad doesn't really affect the sport's image, right? But if one of the highest level series in the whole world for a whole motorsport that's in like a growing phase isn't good, it kind of makes the whole sport look bad as a whole from the outside looking in. Because you have to think, if you want the motorsport to grow, people who aren't in the motorsport have to find it interesting. And if the drivers aren't impressive, they're not going to find it interesting. So I just think if FD can kind of tighten down the rules for getting a license and getting into Pro Spec, it'd be big. And then you can go in the whole conversation about like putting Pro Spec on a smaller tire, making the cars easier to drive and all that
Well,
stuff.
we talked about like having 3 different tiers of pro.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. If you leave Pro Spec how it is,
Yeah.
but then add in a series where the cars are simplified, like say you had a series of like stock S550 Mustangs on like a 245 tire that's pretty sticky. Like
Everybody's in the same car.
cars are it's driver focused, and then the best driver, like if you win Pro-Am, you should go to there, and then if you do well in that,
It's like spec
you should go into Pro Spec.
drifting.
Yeah, so like Pro Spec should go back to Pro 2, and we should actually add in a spec series. I think that'd be cool, but somebody's got to fund that, and that's kind of hard to find too.
You can't
Someone's
find
up
a
there.
manufacturer. I mean, Toyota would probably be the closest one to, but
Yeah.
how are you going to get
Can you imagine a whole field of
GR86s or whatever?
That'd be ridiculous. I don't know. I love drifting, and I hope it becomes one of the biggest motorsports in the world. It's growing so fast, but I think to do that, the competitive side of it has to be really impressive.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to learn to tell people who shouldn't be there that they shouldn't be there.
I mean, I think it's getting more impressive. I think
I think it is too.
I think a lot of people are starting to figure out, and even you're starting to figure out that suspension goes a long ways and not horsepower.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at Pro, all those guys have this stuff figured out.
Yeah.
And like FD Pro has went from the top 4 or top 8 being good to almost every battle.
Almost the top
is pretty good. There's
16.
only a few drivers there that don't put up a fight every single time they drive.
Right, literal.
So if we can kind of make that, like, we can make that trickle down in the Pro Spec, it'd be really good for the sport, I think. But
Yeah.
I'll hop off my comp soapbox and let these guys answer.
What do you think, Logan?
I think people. Okay, grassroots situation, right?
Take like Lone Star or something. What would you change at Lone Star? Not like not
Okay, not
exactly
Lone Star.
Lone Star, but like a series like Lone Star.
Well,
What
I
would
just think
make
as
that
a thing overall for like grassroots competition, I think if you don't have any aspirations, you just want to do comp with the homies and stuff and kind of see how you stack up. Stop overbuilding your car.
better? Yeah.
Like
that's
stop
fair.
building these. There's people who will build like pro spec style cars who don't have the skill to drive a pro spec style car, and then in a year they stop driving.
I think people just kind of see the guys in those cars and they look so fun. And if you just want a car like that because you think it's cool and you don't really care if you're good
Yeah,
at it, like
that's
who
fine.
cares? But if you're trying to progress, I think it's important that people realize when to progress.
Yeah, like you need to be like Lone Star, Texas Street Legal, or anything else like that. Just
Like if-
consistently podium, consistently do well, drive consistently throughout the day,
Yeah.
and then I think
I don't know, I think
That's the
Denofa
way.
said it best on that point. Like, I remember him saying, like, don't go to Pro Spec until you can beat the shit out of anybody in Pro-Am. Don't go to Pro until you beat the shit out of anybody in Pro Spec.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're trying to progress through the grassroots level, if you can't beat everybody in your stock 350Z,
you are not ready for
don't build an 800 horsepower JZ car.
yeah
Because you're not going to go anywhere with it. Unless you just want to do it because it's cool.
fun.
Because
If
it
you
is
have the
cool.
funds.
If you got the money and you just think it's cool, by all means.
Yeah, I just wish people would keep their cars a little more simple. And just
Yeah.
focus on seat time.
It does suck when you see people who've been in the sport for forever fall out of it because they do that and they get frustrated.
Yeah.
That is sad.
No, I mean like you can still do swaps and stuff. And like example, my car, right? You know, I'm putting a LS in my Mustang, but like in reality, I also have a lot of these parts just laying around. Whoa.
Old Jim Bug, dude.
That thing is a unit.
All right. Anyways,
Dude, talk about a mystery of evolution.
Fly on
How
the
are
wall,
they still
man.
around, dude?
Them guys are flying on the wall. dude.
Imagine falling on your back and just being dead. As you see, we don't like bugs here.
Anyways.
All right. Dustin, what would you change in drifting? I think your perspective on this is going to be interesting because you describe because you think it's cool. You build shit because it's cool.
I really wish forums were not a thing.
Okay.
Because I don't think a lot of people are building a lot of unsafe shit, and it's just, I don't know. I almost wish there were more people that would help other people build better cars, and not necessarily like faster cars or high horsepower cars or stylish cars. I just wish that there was more of a group effort to kind of, because if we built better cars, we would all drive more, and if we all drove more, I think there would be less of a divide. You know, like you got the guys who at least look like their cars are really nice on the internet, and then you show up and they're just terrible.
Yeah.
They're just awful.
I don't know. What do you think about? I think a lot of what causes that is like if you want to build a better car, you kind of have to spend. If you can't like build shit yourself like you can, you have to spend more money from the get go.
Yeah.
So how do you balance being able to afford the nice parts that make your car better? Like how do you pick and choose? You know,
I think you start off with a complete car.
Yeah, that's true.
I know that buying a shell seems worth it because it's cheap.
It's not.
But I built my car from a shell.
My
and
car
didn't
was
have
a shell too.
not even hardly a roller.
I didn't even have a bolt in my whole chassis, dude.
I have well over 30 grand in my car, and it's not that. I mean, it's not.
And that's
as
not
nice.
from some like you do everything yourself.
I got a deal on almost every
like
part.
you haven't paid for a minute of labor. You haven't done any of that.
I
and it's
got
still
used
that much
motor,
money.
used transmission. I think I bought all new suspension.
I mean, we've ran to the hardware store a couple times today for what 10 bolts, and it was $50.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah,
you
so
have to if you don't have a
all the
complete
A
car,
fittings that we had
dude,
to buy.
like between
Yeah,
fittings and
I
bolts,
really
man.
wish people would start off with a more complete car, and really, it's kind of like the Miata mentality. I really wish people would try to get all they can out of what they start with
And
instead
then
of,
progress.
Yeah,
you know,
that kind of ties in what you were saying.
I seen an IS300 with an LS in it and a big turbo, but like it was smoking because it was leaking oil everywhere. It's
Yeah.
like, I understand, like it's cool, I guess.
But then again, there's so many things that, like, I have an LS car, and you've taught me so many things just in the last few days about how to make that stuff safe that, like, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know today. Like,
It's-
I don't know that flywheel bolts have to be sealed. Why would anybody know that?
Because they come that way.
But, like, you know what I mean, though? Like, if you're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
make
yeah,
a car safe,
Yeah.
like,
I wish there was just more of a group effort between people that we would start out with more complete cars, like your Mustang, right? You
Yeah.
just got in it and started driving.
Yeah, I mean, I've been driving 5 years now, and I think I drove 2 full years. I mean, just
But you did what? Coilovers?
oh, dude, no, I drove. Yeah, I slapped seats, coilover, steering wheel. Didn't even put an angle kit on. Drove a season and a half until
And it's nice.
yeah, until you can kill it, do great, and then you upgrade a little bit more.
well, the
And
beauty
then
of it
upgrade a
is
little
you
bit
can
more.
drive the car every day like that because it's still going to have heat, AC. Well, not you. You hate AC for some reason, but like normal people will still have heat, AC, radio. It's a daily driver.
I just wish everybody would start there and not with something, like you said, not everyone's a fabricator. You know, not everyone's a wiring guru.
Well, but you can also buy an E46 or a Z or something that doesn't need any fabrication.
Right, and that was my thing. I think what I would change about drifting is not necessarily how everything is ran, but more or less we need to really teach people to start with more and not try to get so crazy. Like you see the guys that go to Japan. Those cars have cut knuckles, seats,
Maybe
And-
coilovers.
and maybe coilovers.
They're just blown.
And those cars-
And they come back to the U.S. and they are
Ripping it.
phenomenal drivers.
They do hundreds of
Jimmy
laps.
Oaks is a great example of that. If you
Yeah.
watch his videos from how
He's
he
improved a
went.
lot just from like episode stuff.
He was there for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, he was already good, but like
Yeah.
you could watch his chase and him and Tatum, like you can see how much more comfortable he is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a simple car is cheap to run, doesn't go through tires, and gives you, like, if you want to learn transition timing and you have a simple car, you get 50 times more transitions to learn from than you do in a Pro-Am car.
Yeah, and I also wish that there wasn't such a divide between looking cool versus the cars that just drive right.
I mean, there's a spot for everybody, and it's like I don't understand why we've gotten to the point where the guys whose cars are slammed on the ground that have 3 inches of travel between all 4 of their coilovers combined.
It's like the stance guy argument over the road racers. They're just like,
I just don't understand like why we can't all just be like, your car looks cool, my car drives right, and I think it looks cool. So why can't we all just get along?
I think the last thing I would probably put on is the whole safety aspect. I think a lot of people skimp out. I don't care if you
I think a lot of cars are starting to burn down, and then people are putting fire extinguishers in their car.
Yeah, I just think
We went to so we went to Cam's this past weekend.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, there was a car on fire, and I was like, "Hey, your car's on fire." And he's like, "Hey." Driving back, and I was like, "All right, man, whatever." But
Dustin, you were so nonchalant. You're like, your car's on fire.
I was like, "How's it going?" And he was like, "Hey."
But
I was like, "I'm not waving at you,
so
man."
like that's the thing though. Is just like I get it. It's probably one of the most I don't want to say entry level sport you can get into, but I think people need to realize that like you could really like fuck your life up.
Well, the problem I think is like if somebody has $3,000 to spend and they want their car to drive well, it's hard for them to spend $1,500 of it on safety stuff when they could spend that money on so the car drives better.
If you
but
don't,
it's
okay,
hard,
so
but you need to.
So if you don't have the money, right? Let's say you like
Buy a simulator.
okay, well there's that.
Yeah.
I think some of these kids buy like a cheap E36, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see that on Facebook all the time. Buy E36, they break, but let's say they run for a little bit.
BMWs.
I just think at least just have a fire extinguisher in your car. Like,
well, have a fire extinguisher in your car. Have a real seat. Stop buying that stupid eBay shit. Buy a real seat and buy real harnesses and mount them correctly.
Prime
Harness
example. Guy Jeff that I worked with.
We should do a video of your safety equipment and why it matters.
He drives his pickup truck, and it had like bomber seats in it. He races it, right? Autocrosses. Well, this past weekend at LS Fest, he rode in I think it was a carbon-backed saw belt, but it was it was a real race seat, and he was like, "Man, I didn't realize how much better a real seat was."
Well, it's not even just for like the ability of
it feels better
to drive, but like the safety. Because if you get in a crash, you ever seen those videos of the guys in like the shipbox S13s that crash? Their steering wheel's bending over, their seats break in half.
LS Fest last year with.
I mean, his car had good safety shit.
Well, that's fair.
That's
It
the
was
only reason.
fast.
Honestly, though, if he didn't, that's probably the reason he's alive.
Or a good example of good safety is you and Eugene at LS Fest this weekend with the power outlet.
I mean, I ran into him hard. His car caught on fire. He got it put out, and we were both okay because we had good safety gear. It matters.
Yeah, Hans.
So, like, if you're
You're
gonna
competing.
spend all this money to go drifting, if you think about it, though, like a 2 drift events worth of tires is $700-800, right?
Yeah.
That $700-800 put into fire suppression, and then another couple events worth of money put into his seat.
Could save you $10,000 to $40,000.
It could save you your physical well-being. I mean, it's like it's worth it to miss 4 or 5 events to be safe.
Yep.
It's not just about going on track.
Yeah, we should do a safety video.
Next.
Okay, let's do a couple more or something.
How do you stay motivated and passionate about drifting, especially during times of adversity and when facing setbacks?
Damn.
Man, that's a good one for me lately. Well,
It's competitive.
yeah, I mean, you have to have, from my standpoint, you have to be competitive. And these guys can attest that, like, once I get into a competition,
It's a switch.
I'm not really me. Like, I'm out there to win, and I'll run into you and yeet you into the grass if you're going slowly. Like,
Jake was like, "I ain't got no front grip. What can we do?" Let some air out.
Like, I'm trying to win, so like my motivation is I've won before. I've won a lot of events and I know how that feels. So if I break something, I want to fix it so I can go feel that again. Because there's nothing that gets my adrenaline pumping more. There's nothing that fills me with as much excitement as going out in competition and doing well. Damn.
Got it. There's a lot in that. You're not in Texas, you might not understand the Junebug situation.
Yeah, no shit.
They're real.
But
Not a threat.
Oh, dude, he's dead. Yeah, he done.
But motivation is my competitiveness and the ability to get through those adversity moments is having people around you that are willing to help. Because like if it's hard for you to fix stuff, or like doing what we did this weekend probably would take me 2 weeks to do just because I'm by myself. So if you can surround yourself with a good group of people, if something bad happens, it's less bad.
Don't be a Debbie Downer. Just fix it.
Yes, but like it's gonna be okay, and get shit done, and you'll have a lot of fun because of it. And while you're at it, if you break something, buy something that won't break again. Like just
Or learn from it, figure out why did it break, and if you don't know why it breaks, ask around. Someone might know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say everyone's going to give you the right answer, but I mean, if something breaks and you don't understand why, there's a reason why it did. Whether you're exceeding limits or you installed wrong or anything. I mean, parts don't just break. Like, things don't just fail. I mean, there's a reason for everything.
If you've exceeded the limits, if you've narrowed it down to that, buy once, cry once. If you buy good parts, they won't break, and you'll save money in the long run. I think that's something a lot of people need to know.
So I think,
like your car's, you blew your car up last year at my test day.
Yeah.
That's adversity, right?
so
What's your motivation to get back to it?
well, I think first I would start with drifting's fun, but don't blow all your money if you don't have it. If you really don't have it, don't do it.
Just sit
I
back
did
and
it.
wait.
It's dumb.
Like, I see so many
Pay
people
your
go into
rent.
credit card debt and drop out of the sport forever, and that's not good for anyone.
Example, like I got started drifting when I was living with my dad, right? And then I got through college and welding school and all that, and lived on my own and couldn't go racing as much. But as you get older, hopefully you make more money, and when you make more money, you can go back into the hobby that you like. That's why I'm able to get this LS in a car and to be able to go drive again. And I guess also like, if you're drifting, it's just you and you have nobody around you, no friends. It's very, very hard to stay in.
It is, because if anything goes wrong and you have a big task ahead of you, it feels like the end of the world.
Yeah, or like if you don't have people to drive with, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one too, and that kind of goes back to what I would change about drifting kind of thing.
That's what I run into almost every event.
Yeah, don't be so hard on people you don't know. Like, I mean, I understand like your car matters and you don't want to crash, but like you don't have to be condescending towards people who are new. Like, if you don't want to drive with them and they're still learning, hop in their car and teach them, help them learn. So maybe one day you will want to drive with them, because nobody likes to go to the event and just be shut out by everybody because they're new. Everybody's new at some point.
I've done a lot of solo laps.
And you're a good driver. There's no reason people should be afraid
I
to drive.
don't know if it's because they don't know me or if it's intimidation. Like, man, it should, because like I don't know how to go slow. Like, that's not part of my program.
Yeah.
So like I got there, I hooked my car in and I'm getting with it, and then like the events I go to are not, I mean, they're not comps.
Yeah.
So they're not forced to tandem. And so like I'm almost just kind of waiting on someone to be like, oh dude, I want to drive with that
Somebody
car.
that has the balls to go, hey, let's
Yeah, like
party.
the guy in the C6 this past weekend, he was like, I want to drive, and I was like, sick.
Well, I'll start taking my Z to events with you. We'll drive.
That's totally fine. I might have to air up a little bit, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go as fast as I can.
He's pretty fast. I don't know.
Next question.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to make modifications or adjustment to your car mid-competition, and how did you
Shit.
handle those situations appropriately?
Oh yeah, we did.
I'm notorious
LS
about ignoring things that are wrong with my car and just driving around it. We've definitely had to make some changes. But wait, was the question asked how did I handle it?
Yeah, how did you handle it effectively?
Listen.
Well, if I make a change, it's because something's bad and I want to make it better. So usually there's no handling it. The car's just good now.
I don't feel like the car's always as good as it could be. So
I think it's track dependent.
I'm down to making changes constantly, whether you like it or you don't like it.
That's the beauty of having you around, though, because you can ask Logan, how many times did we ever change anything other than tire pressure last year? Ever?
2 times.
Yeah, I mean,
how many weekends did I come over and just measure stuff?
yeah, it doesn't like, oh, I'm coming over tomorrow. I'm
6
bringing a bump
weekends.
stair gauge. We're gonna do science. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, at least science
But,
the
like-
shit out of
They produced it. This is almost like a podcast at this point.
I
I mean, yeah, this is practically what it is.
I'm getting home at 1.
Okay.
a beer with 3 amigos.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, if you make changes to your car, it should more so be to make it better. So you shouldn't really have to deal with it necessarily.
Whatever your goal is, if you're going fast, if you're trying to go faster, if you're trying to make it easier to drive, I mean, I don't know. I'm down to make changes often, but I'm also one to make some changes and then drive it for a little bit.
You gotta make sure it works.
Yeah.
You can't just make a change, take it out for a lap, and be like, no, like you need
No,
to.
there's no way.
You're not gonna know that a change works in a lap because you're not gonna make the same inputs every lap. So if you make a change in your car, do 5-6 laps, and if it feels slower, transitions harder than you want, or whatever, if the change doesn't do what you want it to do, go back and make another one. Don't be afraid to mess around with it, but like,
Or sim.
I mean,
Or drive
side
around
note
it.
though, like side note, if you have a competition in an hour, don't make any changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drive it how you know it, because if you make a change and it doesn't work, you might not have time to revert it. So do test days. Go to grassroots events and just drive.
Yeah, like at TMS, you know, I was worried that we weren't going to get to make our change during practice, so made the change anyways.
Yeah,
Something
and
we
then,
were talking about.
I mean, luckily it worked, but I knew
It's
that,
really
like,
good.
I knew that worst case it might be
Worse.
a little worse.
Yeah.
And I'm used to driving around stuff anyways, but that's why you have test days. So do test days first and make your changes there. That way you know at comp that if you need to make a change, you know what change to make and how it's going to drive.
We tried the test day.
Yeah, we just got kicked out of our test day.
We tried.
That goes back to your stance car thing. They don't like my loud car.
They don't like smoke.
Hey, I don't make the
Smoking
rules,
loud
man.
cars.
Yeah, whatever. It's okay. All right, last question.
What are some of your future plans for your drifting career?
I mean, this year we're gonna do some big shootouts. We're gonna go fast. We're gonna try to get a little bit more notoriety. Keep up like the social media stuff. Try and grow that. And hopefully, figure out a way to get to pro spec next year. And I want to go do that for a little bit and then see how I like that. If that progresses, cool. If not, I'll kind of end up doing just whatever I find to be fun at the time.
Oh, you want me to answer that question?
Everybody.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna drive. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna show up. I'm just gonna drive. Might get in a tussle with a door or two. Might hit another couple cones. But I'm just here to have fun, man.
Dude, your drag wing is like a katana for cones.
I mean, I didn't think I hit that cone until I went back and I watched the in-car video and I heard the thud and I was like, oh, maybe I did hit it. And they were like, well, if you hit the inside cone, you nudge it, but you don't knock it over, you get more points. Well, I did that.
Pretty fucking cool. You know how to argue with them about that?
I didn't manji the straight.
You're the only person in the entire comp that didn't manji the straight.
And I dropped a tire at the same time. It was almost like an eco drop. It was like, what? It was cool.
That's pretty cool. So you're just gonna go party and have fun at all the events you find interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to take a car just too fast for all the regular dudes. And I'm just going to have fun. And then I'll compete with you guys every once in a while. But, I mean, my car was not built to be competitive. My car was built purely just to have fun. There's a lot of things on my car that does not fit any rule book, purely because I wanted to run specific stuff like stock oil pan, stock subframe type situation.
E36 angle kit on your S13.
Look, it all stock stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just drive.
All right, Logan. What's your plans with drifting?
I'm a pretty competitive person. Grew up playing very high competition sports my whole life, and so for me with drifting, I want to win, and I know I can win. So my car will be done in a bit. We'll see. And,
I'll help you go fast.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna win.
You're gonna go
Straight
fast.
up.
You're gonna
Like,
go fast.
I don't-
What series are you targeting right now? Do you have one?
Pro 3 Oklahoma, just because
Yeah.
of now with the change to the car.
So like how I started in street legal, you're gonna go target Pro 3 kind of for the same
Yeah.
deal, and then kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, pretty much. Just see where budget, mainly budget.
That's the big thing.
I know I can do Pro 3 pretty easily, cost wise.
Well, I got a recommendation. Don't do the whole track layout because it's about 6 laps per pair.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've driven
Do the
I
comp
learned the hard
layout
way.
and then
But I showed up to parties, so I was doing the whole layout all at once every time.
But yeah, that's my plan. I'm super competitive. I know I can win. It's just getting the car dialed in just a little bit more, and with some changes and some new parts that have already been bought, I think, and with this mad scientist.
It's easy stuff.
I think I speak for both of us when I say we're excited to help you however we can.
Yep, and then I'll crash it. Cool, and then keep driving it.
We'll fix it. We'll go crash it again.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that's probably a lot of questions. That's my team, my friends. Let's go see what happens this year.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna go fast.
Race hill, baby. Doghouse.
Bye, guys. Thanks.